for watching SLC TV, Salt Lake City's government access channel. For this week's episode of Capital City News, we'll hear from Salt Lake City Council Chair Stan Penfold about the 2 new homeless resource centers to be built in Salt Lake City. And our History Minute is about the city's early political climate. Let's get started with our legislative update and look back.
We want young women to know it's an option for them as well, that they can be just as strong, they can do the things that men can do and be good at it. And there's some situations where a woman might just be the right touch.
We talked about fear in this class a bit and how you can't allow fear to be something that makes decisions for you. You've got to take risks and you've got to have courage and you've got to stand up for what you believe in.
Diversity is a critical part of health of any organization, and that includes our fire department and our police department. We realize that it isn't enough to just tell young women you can be anything, but that we need to give them experiences and opportunities to see paths towards succeeding in those ideas.
We are celebrating the latest round of solar projects on city government facilities. We just wrapped up 7 separate solar installations. In total, we added 756 solar panels to a variety of government facilities.
In Salt Lake City is a time to learn about, celebrate, and honor the United States Navy.
We have sailors representing the USS Constitution, the Navy Band, and sailors from the Explosive Ordnance Disposal Group, so that citizens of Salt Lake City get an opportunity to ask questions of them on what the Navy is all about.
Two new homeless resource centers are to be built in Salt Lake City, and it's the City Council's job to approve zoning requirements for those resource centers to comply with in order to operate in the city. Salt Lake City Council Chair Stan Penfold is here to fill us in and walk us through next steps.
Well, the sites have been selected for the homeless resource centers, but one of the things we're working on right now as a city and a council is what kinds of conditions we might want to put on the zoning around those resource centers. We're particularly interested in what people in the public think about concerns we might have to address when we're placing these. For example, we're looking at restrictions on things like the number of people who can be in a resource center, maybe how they're buffered against other neighborhood uses, whether or not there's security, and there are a lot of factors that can go into the design around these centers that we're hoping will reduce the impact to the neighborhoods where they're located. And we're looking at starting our architectural designs, and some of that is in process. And at the same time, we're creating a zone for these resource centers that doesn't currently exist in the city. Once the zone is created, the design will be finalized, and construction could start as early as midwinter or early spring, depending on the weather. And we're hoping to have some of these services up and running in the next 18 months. The Homeless Resource Centers is a very different model than what we're currently or historically have experienced for homeless centers. The services we provide now, if you think about the road home, are shelters, and they're truly emergency shelters. It's where people go when they don't have anywhere else to go. A resource center is a very different concept. The idea of a resource center is temporary shelter while people are working to get back on their feet and back into housing. And so it's very much a transitional kind of model that is deliberate about trying to help people get back into a housing unit. So some of the comments we've already heard are potential restrictions on the number of people who can be in a unit or in one of these centers, maybe some setbacks from adjacent properties, whether or not there's an entrance that's easy to see or design around, perhaps some buffering between the centers and other properties in the neighborhood. There are a lot of factors that can be considered in the site design, and that's what we're looking for from the public right now. What do you think would help mitigate any impact that these could potentially have in a neighborhood? So the city has a process for evaluating what kinds of conditions we might want to put on some of this zoning, but we really want to hear from residents, in particular those in the neighborhoods where these sites are located, but from all across the city as well. And so we're having some public hearings in a public process, so everyone's welcome to come and speak to the City Council during a public hearing. We also are happy to receive comment either by email or phone or on our website. There are lots of opportunities to provide input to the city.
Next up, our History Minute.
The political disposition of Salt Lake City was always volatile in the early years of the city, and during the first 4 decades, that political landscape proved volatile for the Salt Lake City Police Department specifically. The LDS Church exerted a great influence on the politics of the city, but as the capital became a more important destination on the Westward Trail, non-Mormons would settle there. It could be tense politically. The LDS People's Party would win elections in the city government and fire all of the police officers that weren't Mormon. Then the non-Mormon Liberal Party would win an election and fire all of the LDS officers and then recruit a whole new police force. This went back and forth until voters on both sides got fed up with the politics of the police force and, in 1894, decided that the selection of the police department's personnel would be completely nonpartisan.
Thanks for watching another episode of Capital City News. Please join us next time to stay up to date on all the latest and greatest. For SLC TV, I'm Poonam Kumar.